Hello, everybody. I'm Patrik Stellmann. I'm working as system architect with GDV DL. It's a service provider for the German insurance company. And we do XML for our documentation, internal, and also for publishing. And I want to show you some of the work I have done in this area. So since we are writing software, we're documenting our software, and it's also likely that we have some very low-level technical data, like the description of a database table. It's no problem that you can't read it, you will see it later. So just take it as some XML, very raw, very low level, and describing a database table. So on the other side, we have our DITA documents describing our software, and since our software accesses this database table, it's likely that we want to refer to this database table when we describe it. So what we actually want, we want to have some kind of access or reference from our DITA document to our low-level non-DITA XML. Well, this is not directly possible because raw XML is not compatible with DITA. So one solution would be to convert our raw technical low-level XML by XSLT to a DITA document. Well, this is since now we have a real DITA document, it's very easy to integrate it in the DITA map and refer to it with cross-references and whatsoever. But there are some issues with this approach. So let me show you with a demonstration why there might be a better solution, and there's a need for a better solution. So first, now readable, the description of our database table. So we have a root element table. It's attached with a schema. So we have a check for validation. We have the name of the table, some description, the definition with some columns, like person ID, which has a type and description, and so on. So as I told you, low-level XML. Now, if I would transform this to DITA, it could look like this. Let me show you side by side. So again, here you have the table name, you have a short description, the name of the columns with their type and description, and so on. Some additional properties like a schema and how the changes into the table are logged. Now, actually, well, I do a lot XML. I like XML, and even I myself would prefer editing this description on the, like it is visible on the right side and not raw XML, because, well, Oxygen provides great support for visual editing, so why not use it? And additionally, it would be great if I could publish it. So the left side is a better one, but the problem is, now if I transform it, well, of course I can edit here. Let's say I just want to add another column. So here, and I can write whatever, and I just, because I don't know the real XML schema for the database table, I just say something like should not be empty, and I write here some description and so on. And now, well, I have changed my DITA file, but at the end I want to have it back in my low-level XML database domain, because at some point I have to find a way to bring it back to my real database. So generate SQL from it to really modify my database table. And this is quite a problem, because I have no guidance. I have guidance in the DITA domain, because this is a DITA topic. So Oxygen will automatically check that my topic has a title element. But I'm not thinking about DITA, I'm thinking about the database table. And since there's currently no relation with my original schema for the database, I have actually no guidance. So, and this is quite a problem. So this is no theoretical, because I have done this for 2 years, trying to have raw DITA files and extract data from it. And you can do this with hundreds and thousands of validation rules and so on. It's no fun, it's not efficient. So let's look for a better solution. Now let's take a look at the raw XML of my DITA file. Well, we have a topic, it's common root element in DITA, we have a title, short description, body, and so on. And actually, the structure is not that far away from my raw file here. And luckily, DITA is not about the element tags, it's all about the class attributes and some additional attributes. And as you can see, here are no class attributes attached at all, because they come as default attributes from the schema. So that's basically the core idea. If I can just modify the schema and add some attributes as default values or fixed values, I can convert XML to DITA without even touching it. So let's say this table, should be a topic title, a topic element, my name would be the title, and so on. So I would just open another version. It's the same XML, I just used a different schema because I didn't want to modify the original one. And now I just switch to author mode, and it already looks, well, kind of DITA-ish. So as you can see, just showing you the attributes. Here at the name element, I have assigned the topic title attribute, and my description element is a short description. What is this? The column element, it's a simple table row, and so on. So just by applying some default attributes, I can convert it closer to DITA, so make it behave like DITA. Well, so we are already some step closer. So converting without transformation. And the nice thing is, now let's again try to add another column. So I just insert a new element, and Oxygen, because it's still the same raw XML, Oxygen will guide me according to the original schema. So it will automatically insert this mandatory element type, and it will complain about that, well, this is no valid NC name. So I have to write something in. If I want to here enter anything, it will complain, no, there is no raw text allowed. If I press enter, well, the only element that is allowed there, it's the not null constraint. So I can insert it. So it feels like DITA, well, it looks like DITA, but it still behaves like the original in the XML in my specific database domain. Now, there's still some gaps to be filled. So it doesn't look exactly like this one, but I like the right side. So now is the question, how can I make the left side look more like the right side? So we have seen already this morning that with some CSS, we can do everything that is missing here. The problem is, I don't only want to see it in Oxygen, I also want to publish it to PDF, to HTML, and so on. So naturally, when you have DITA content and you want to publish it, you use DITA OT. And so if I do it in CSS, I have to do it again in XSLT for DITA OT publishing. So I don't like doing some things twice. So while this work adding information as attribute defaults by the schema works well with the class attributes, why not just add additional attributes? For instance, some attribute on the name element that adds a prefix to the content. And this is exactly what I've done. So I will just code to the schema and put it that we can look in parallel. So now I will modify my schema. Here you see that I've set the class attribute, and now I've set another attribute. It's in a specific namespace, CBA for content by attribute. And you see there are quite some attributes that are possible to be used. I want to have a prefix, put it as fixed value, and I want to be a table with a colon. And I just refresh this window, and voila, magically the word table appears. So it has a gray, you can see it. So it has a gray background. This is my indicator for you cannot edit this. This is content that comes from the framework. So let's take a look for the next missing piece. Well, the person. Here we have well, it's not just a title, we have also a code phrase to make it look like this TrueType font. So, well, I have no additional element here, so I need some way to make, artificially add a kind of wrapper element. Well, again, I can go to my schema, and for this case, because it's quite common, I have another attribute. It's called CBA flags, because there are several options that I might want to add. And I just say this should look like a code. And again, I refresh it, and a few seconds later, voila, it looks like a code font. Now, some more issues. So the short description, it's all fine. Well, we have no header. Well, of course, on our DITA XML, we have a dedicated element for the header. On our raw XML, well, it's the name of the element, so why should my raw XML contain some header for this? So again, I will have to find a way. I go to my simple table element. That's quite short. So it's here, there's my simple table. And for tables, I have yet another attribute called header. And there I can just place all the headings separated by a pipe symbol. So the first is name and type and description. So again, refresh it. Ta-da. Okay, so there are still some more issues. Let's go to the more interesting ones. Well, so here we have missing title. So I converted this properties to a definition list. Let's go back to compare the XML. So here we have quite a lot XML that refers to this very little compact XML, because here we have a section with a title, with a definition list, with definition list entries, definition terms, and definition data. So here I just have the properties and 2 entries with their text content. So what I did is I assigned here, it's a definition list, and I directly placed the definition data into my definition list. So I had to already do some tweaking on the CSS to make it work. And now, again, I go to the schema, and for definition data, I support the attribute DT, so the term that is defined. And for this one, it's let me check the schema. And for the other one, to make it complete, here, it's the log table. Oops, or something like this. Well, you get the idea. Okay. So we have already the definition term displayed. Well, there's still a title missing. Oh, and difficulty, I have even some context sensitive data, because here I'm referring to the name of the table. Well, I wouldn't put it in my sample if I couldn't handle it. So let's take a look at the properties. And so here we have our definition list, our output class, to make it look like this. And I'll just add another attribute. Well, title, who might have guessed. So it's properties of, thanks, table. And now, well, in XSLT it's common, in attributes you can use curly braces and add some XPath. So that's how I did it. So I can just write some XPath expression. Luckily, even Oxygen uses content completion within my schema in curly braces for XPath. I don't know why, but I love it. You might have expected this one. Table slash name So, and once again, refresh. And I should see my table with this XPath resolved. So, well, to don't make it in time, I will skip the other. So I hope you believe me that I will be able to manage the rest of the differences as well. So, well, the great advantage of this is now I have, no, just double check. Okay, I didn't modify anything of the XML. I just switched to author mode, and it looks almost identical to my DITA. And since I have also provided DITA OT plugin as a pre-process step, it's a resolver, so it converts all my specialized attributes to some standard DITA elements. For instance, if I specify this CBA flag code, it just creates a code phrase element wrapping the text content. And so any DITA OT publishing transformation type that you created will work with this framework. So you don't have to modify any transformation type if you use this. So let's go back to my PowerPoint.
Is that a DITA OT plugin that you've written to do?
Yeah, exactly. I will show you the URL. Well, maybe well, I will try to sell it positive. There's an additional use case. The negative version would be, well, this won't work for every case because, well, these two XML structures, they were quite compatible. And you can imagine you won't be able to create just with these attributes to convert any XML content to a DITA structure. This won't work. But as in my case, I'm able to influence the schema of my raw XML. So the idea is to design the schema that this works very well and to have some kind of intermediate format. So on the one side, it's very low-level technical, so I can do, it's really expressive in my specific custom domain, and still it's close enough to DITA that I just can treat it as DITA with these attribute defaults. So it's a kind of specialization. Well, I think the people that do real DITA specialization, they have something different in mind than this one. So I'm carefully that I call this specialization. And also the other way around, you can add this way DITA elements in your custom XML. For instance, the description, the short description, or the description of the columns, why not allow some simple list items and stuff like this? And of course, when you convert it back to your database, you have to make raw text from it, but it's quite simple to transform a simple list into text content. So the result is something which is kind of a semantic DITA XML, but not semantic in a DITA sense, but according to my custom domain. In my case, it was a database table, but you can do whatever you want. So as a conclusion, this solution, well, it takes the advantages of both worlds. On the one side, you have the advantages of the raw XML. So you are in the validation works in your custom domain, and you can still do automatic processing, like data extraction or validation in this domain. And you also get the advantages from DITA. So you can do the visual authoring in Oxygen, or you can do the publishing with DITA OT in whatever formats you know. And also, not only for the author, it's also nice for me as a framework architect. I only have to modify a single source, that is my XML schema. So when I create new elements from our framework, I just write the XSD. I put in the schematron rules, the default attributes to make it look and behave like I want. So I don't need to touch CSS or XSLT or Java or whatsoever. Well, of course, I had to do this because I implemented this plugins. But when it's done, well, I just modify a single file. So something like, in Oxygen it looks nice because the CSS is correct, but I forgot some specific rule in the OT plugin. Well, it won't work because it's the same source. It's always based on the attributes set by the schema. And it's an open source plugin. Well, I just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I made a new kind of release. It's more a snapshot because it's work in progress. But the concept I'm using already for about 3 to 5 years. with a custom plugin. So it's no theoretical idea, it's really working in real life application. Well, that's for my first part. Do you have any questions?
If I understand correctly, this only works for a complete file. Or could you have an object inside of a DITA file that is filled with that?
Well, my resolver, this preprocess plugin, it scans the whole file. But if you have only a single element that has only a single attribute, like this prefix attribute, it will only change this one. So you can put a small piece as you want and add this.
I think what I mean is here you have just table and it becomes a topic. And what if I had this table, this XML table that you have there in your own format, and I wanted to become a table inside of a DITA topic?
Oh.
You can call it part of it instead of a full file.
Yeah. Yeah, conref, I would say, well, definitely XSLT conref, which I have presented last year. Well, you can do anything with XSLT conref, kind of. But it should work with conref, with standard conref, I would expect. I didn't check it, but...
Not sure if because then you have different parts of the code that have different
XML
textures.
is replaced before DITA OT starts the process as a pre-processing step, is replaced with a converted topic. So if you can correlate to that, maybe...
Yeah. I'm not sure if my preprocessor works maybe before conref, so, but, well, there is no strict rule against it, I would say. Maybe it's not yet working, but if there's a use case, I think I could make it work.
So it should be similar to the Markdown as a format. You say topic like this and format equals Markdown. That's also converted to DITA as a pre-processing step. When the document is read, it's converted to a DITA topic.
Yeah, but you're talking
So
about
it's something similar.
You're talking about a full document instead of...
Yes, but that can be made resource only and correct. So you don't need to include the entire thing.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's the same situation.
I didn't get the concept of how you're doing the, let's call it, in place transformation.
Yeah.
Or using the publishing of the toolkit. I mean, you're still in your XML
Yeah.
dialect. You add something where XSD, which looks like DITA. First part of the question. Second part is, would you recommend it to use when you want authoring capabilities in one other XML dialect, which could translate to maps and topics, so a full-blown thing, or would you then recommend doing a transformation and then a round-tripping transformation back to the original XML dialect?
Okay, so the first question was how it works with DITA OT. So what I have shown you here is based on CSS or less rules. It has nothing to do at all with the DITA OT plugin, but it's more impressive to present. Now I can press the button to publish it for DITA OT, if I find it. Yeah, that's one. So it's a completely different source code. It's based on XSLT and some Java involved and so on. And yes, I do, but as you can see, so this is, if you use DITA OT, this should look familiar to you. Oh, and this, okay, this is the output, so it works. And you will find here in the job filter, conref, here, right, copy to, and here, there's my custom plugin, DITA Semia Process Resolver. And this is my special piece, small piece within the pre-processing pipeline of Oxygen, and we can take a look in the temp folder. Here. So this is the file that was the final part of the DITA OT, and we close this one. So and here you see, well, you could see if you have more room. Okay, this is DITA OT adds quite a lot of attributes. So let me check if I find the outline. Okay, so here we have the name element. Maybe if I just format it. Okay, this will work. So here we have a table, we have the name, and within the name we have a phrase with a prefix. This was added by content by attribute. And I have my code phrase element. This was added due to the flags attribute code. And this is what my xml-DITA with some Java support does. Okay, because and this is resolved to standard DITA. It should work with any transformation type you implement.
This is kind of transformation included in the home toolkit then, plus the XSD.
Yeah, right. But the XSD, so the plugin, it's done. I've done it. There's no need if you don't have additional features required. But so if you want to use it for your own custom XML, you only have to modify your XSD files, and you don't have to touch this plugin.
So it's a framework relying on some certain structures, and you can only adopt XSD, and the xml-DITA is driven by that.
Exactly. So it's basically a transformation by XSD.
One last question: the round trip.
Okay.
When you just more than let's call it another dialect, very old dialect, some exchange standard, and you want to transfer to DITA. Normally, if you want your output back again in this old dialect, you would do round tripping. You would do a transformation first, and then a back transformation. You mustn't do when you just could use authoring with DITA and publishing with DITA.
Exactly.
Just making it for this part publishable and readable. Would you recommend it if you have more structures like maps and topics?
This is the way we are using it. Well, our framework, I have about 50,000 lines of XSD code and 1,000 of different element types. So this is the framework I'm talking about. So, and I'm happy and I'm still be able to convince my boss that this is a good solution. I can still can spend time on it. We have a lot of. It's just great. I can spend the rest of the day and telling you why it's great. But okay, great. Okay. Any other question? Yeah.
Are you aware of the DITA class, how you call it, product? That you have a live link between some source and DITA, and you change it in DITA and it goes back. It was presented last year in Prague. What is it called? Your DITA class or?
Yeah, the protocol, the convert protocol, the URLs.
Yeah, the problem is you have to do a transformation from DITA that has no relation to your original XSD back to this specific XSD. So you, as I have shown you, when you're modifying your DITA content, you have no guidance. You can totally break all the rules. Of course, you can write tons and tons of schematron rules, but it's not comfortable.
What I'm saying is that you have a live link between your database and the XML editor. So, sounds very interesting to look into that, because then it goes all automatic by inserting a URL to your database.
I don't get it. Sorry.
I'll explain later when I'm
maybe.
more aware of what I
But it's very interesting idea to layer this, because all the data processing is based on the class attributes which come as default from the schema. So layering that on top of another schema to get both DITA and non-DITA at the same time, it's quite interesting.
Thanks. Well, actually, this idea is not new. It's the same idea I presented last year, but my understanding of it has evolved. So, so it seems to be successful that you also understand it as a new idea.